Patrick Surtain Jr. was drafted 9th overall by the Denver Broncos in the 2021 NFL Draft. Standing at 6'2", 208 pounds, Surtain was considered by many to be one of the best defensive backs in the country. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what makes Patrick Surtain such an intriguing talent at the cornerback position and how his skill at the position might translate to the NFL. All right, so here we go. It's Alabama versus LSU. Alabama's on the road. As you can see, it's 6-0. It's the first quarter just coming to an end. And this particular exposure, I wanted to take a look at Surtain. This is his freshman year. He's going up against Justin Jefferson in this exposure. And I wanted to take a look at what we might glean from his skill in this exposure. All right, so let's take it right here. Again, we're going to be looking at Surtain's play through a player problem solver lens. We want to look at the compatibility of his solution, but also the execution of his solution. And we want to look at basically how he's adapting to the play and the task as it unfolds and as the play changes throughout this particular route. So as you see coming off the line of scrimmage, you could see that Justin Jefferson is attacking his leverage. He gives him a little shoulder fake inside. Surtain doesn't go for it. He's square, maintaining that ability to be able to be in front of and on top of the offensive player. Notice right here, this extension of the arm. This becomes, I think, a staple of what Surtain likes to do as a DB. He uses that arm extension, that contact, not only to reroute the defender, but through that contact, he's also getting an understanding of the intentions of the wide receiver, so that way he can better couple his movements to that of the wide receiver as they go downfield. Notice in this particular situation, Surtain has got the low shoulder on the offensive player. He would probably want to maintain the high shoulder so he can pace the offensive player a little bit more. But notice that he begins to fight back here a little bit, right? He gets his hands involved. They're jockeying for position. They're trying to reroute and maintain that distance from the sideline. Surtain trying to compress him against the sideline. Justin Jefferson trying to, maintain that separation. But more importantly, I think this is how Surtain, again, understands the emergence of the passing window and where he's going to need to extend his arms and use that timing and length to go ahead and break up this play. It's not as simple as just tracking the football. I think he's using all the information. He's using the interpersonal distance between him and the offensive player. He's using the forces that are engaged and connected to him and the offensive player throughout this route, and he uses that all along while tracking the football and extending up and timing it so he can disrupt this play. Outstanding play by Patrick Surtain. All right, so here it is. This is Alabama versus South Carolina. As you can see, Alabama is again on the road at South Carolina. And when you look at this particular play, something to keep in mind here is it's 24-10. It's the second quarter, and notice the alignment, right? You have South Carolina currently sitting in what can best be described as a gun right 1-by-3 set, and here you go. Here's Patrick Surtain right down here at the bottom of the screen, and I want you to notice that the ball is on the hash mark, and this is something that I think Surtain does very well, and this is where I think he's going to really excel at the next level. I think Patrick Surtain can be an excellent boundary corner. Immediately out of the box, he could be a great boundary corner for the Broncos at the NFL. I think he does a great job using the sideline as that second defender. And I think we see this in this play. Let's let it unfold, and then we'll go back and have a quick discussion. All right, so you can see at the snap of the football, the wide receiver gives him a little bit of a stutter step, tries to extend him inside a little bit, but then makes an outside release. And right here, you see what I was talking about earlier. Again, the collision. Yes, this is something that he is taught to do, but I think it's something that's essential for him in order to couple his movements to that of the wide receiver. By extending his arms and making contact, he gets a good feel for the intention of the wide receiver, and he's able to track him. Notice he's got the upfield shoulder. He's aware of where he is on the field. He understands where the first down is. And notice how close he's now got the offensive player to the sideline. He does a great job getting the wide receiver towards the sideline sideline, compressing that throwing window, and then extending up to make a play. I want you to notice that this is something that we didn't see in the first exposure. Even though he was next to the sideline and he was working to try to get Justin Jefferson towards the sideline, here we see him being successful in doing so. You see a much more physical kind of altercation at the line of scrimmage as compared to that with Justin Jefferson, and you could see him working and physically moving his body and compressing that throwing window as the play unfolds. Again, using those physical interactions to help adjust and understand when the passing window will emerge for the wide receiver so he can make a play on the ball. This is something that I think will translate well at the next level, and I think it's an understanding of how to use the sideline as a secondary defender, that informational resource that he can exploit, that I think is really going to make him exceptional in the NFL. Let's take a look at another exposure. Here we are. It's the end of his sophomore season. It's Michigan, Alabama, 2019. Michigan is in a gun right, tight left 2x2 set. Patrick Surtain is right here at the top of the screen. He's aligned against Donovan's Peoples-Jones. The ball is on the left hash mark. Again, we're going to let this play roll, and I wanted you to notice again how he utilizes collisions at the line of scrimmage as well as the sideline in order to compress the space and compress the distance or the throwing window for the opposing team. So let's let this play run, and then we'll come back and take a look. All right, so here we go. It's a little bit of a stutter step by the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage, getting that outside release. And Surtain, of course, kind of uses that contact, those long arms to make that kind of contact at the line of scrimmage, not only to push the wide receiver towards the sideline or compress the throwing window, but also because this connection, I believe, is part of his skill and his game. It's how he begins to understand when those throwing windows will emerge throughout the timeline of the play. By keeping that connection, you'll notice he begins to turn back and track the football, but that arm is still in a jockeying position between him and the wide receiver as he again uses that sideline so skillfully to compress that throwing window. I believe that all these things together is what gives him that deft timing in making that precise kind of challenge for the football in the passing window and rendering this pass incomplete. These types of elements are definitely going to be things that are going to make him a great boundary corner at the next level in the NFL. But everything isn't always so nice for Surtain. There are some areas for development for sure, and we're going to take a look at two plays as we close this out of where he could develop at the next level and bring the Broncos even more success in defensive coverage. All right, so here we go. It's Alabama-Auburn. It's the Iron Bowl. Alabama's at Auburn. It's 3rd and 8. Auburn is sitting in a 2x2 gun left set. The ball is on the far hash mark. And as you can see, Surtain is here at the bottom of the screen along with his safety. These two guys are going to be responsible for these two wide receivers. And I think it's important to understand that the space here, I think, is the kind of the specifying information. It's the information that I think kind of begins to shed some light on areas where Surtain could continue to develop at the next level. I'm going to let this play run, and then we'll go ahead and have a quick discussion. All right, so let's take it from right here. As you can see, the wide receiver at the top of the stack is going to work outside. Seth Williams is going to work straight at Surtain. And as this play unfolds, you begin to see something very curious, right? Notice how Surtain does not make contact with Seth Williams at all within the 5 yards of this particular play here on this down. Notice that Surtain doesn't really make contact with Seth Williams until right here. Seth Williams pretty much has him beat down the sideline. And I want you to notice that the reasons that this could be happening is the management of space, right? When we look at the space management, he's not against the sideline. He doesn't have that sideline as an extra defender. So I think his timing on his collisions is thrown off. I think he's really destabilized here. So this is an area at the next level where I think he's going to need to kind of find his skill and keep developing and improving. So again, just to kind of recap it, why could we not be as successful here as we were on previous plays? 2 reasons. The sideline is a piece of information that I think Surtain really utilizes to gauge and couple his movements to. Using the sideline as an extra defender gives him the confidence to make collisions in ways that allow him to get an early read on the intentions of the offensive player. And right here, by not having those early kind of intentions understood by the wide receiver, he really is destabilized in terms of understanding where that passing window will emerge across the timeline of the route. I think at the next level, this is certainly an area to improve. All right, so here we go. We're back at Michigan, Alabama again. And I think this is a great play to close out on. We see a lot of the similarities from the previous play. You'll notice again here, Surtain at the bottom of the screen, right? The ball is on the far hash mark. You can see that Michigan is in what can best be described as a gun right, tight right, 2x2 set. And if you notice again, the receivers are in a stacked formation. Here you go. You can see the Alabama defenders. They're going to trade off, take whoever goes high, and the other will take whoever goes low. So we're going to let this play unfold, and we'll have a quick discussion to wrap it up. All right, so here you go. They're motioning into this particular formation. I think this is important to see because this adds a deceptive quality that I think really kind of destabilizes Surtain a little bit more. Notice as this trajectory of this route by number 8 is towards the inside, you can see Surtain matches the route well. And notice he's intending to close space here, but he's not exactly sure as to the proximity between him and the offensive player. This interpersonal distance and trajectory of the offensive player, he's not quite sure exactly how to couple his movements to that of the wide receiver. He collides here, I think, as an act of desperation to just try to destabilize the wide receiver in some way to prevent the catch. And notice he's kind of in emergency mode here. He's just chasing the wide receiver as the ball's in the air, really just not paying attention to the trajectory of the football at all, paying attention only to the wide receiver's kind of body. And he's going to play this pass through the wide receiver to try to jostle the ball loose. This is exactly what you should do when you're beat by a wide receiver. But I think the important thing is understanding why he was beat. I think working in space, not having that sideline as a defender, not being able to make those early collisions is something that really kind of puts Surtain in a place where he's really just not stable in terms of the solutions he'll have on a particular play. I think at the next level, this immediately puts him in this situation where he can be an immediate starter as a boundary corner, and then from there he could develop his overall skill set. Again, I don't want to make this sound like he can't play in space. It's just certainly an area he is not comfortable. And I think at the next level, I'm excited to see him develop. There's no doubt he has the skill and ability to be a great corner at the next level.